Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, 17th chapter. I think that's 180. Is
yeah, 180 to 183.
Right. Well, okay. 180. Tatapi Puri Devki Tara Vaishnava Achar.
Tatapi Puri Devki Tara Vaishnava Achar.
Shishya Kore Tara Mika Koila Mika.
Shishya Kore Tara Mika Koila Mika.
So we're continuing about the son of the Brahmana meeting with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Vrindavan. Although the Brahmana belonged to the son of Diya community, Srila Madhavendra Puri saw that he behaved like a Vaishnava, therefore accepted him as his disciple. The food he cooked was also accepted by Madhavendra Puri. Text 181. Mahaprabhu tare jadi vikramajila.
Mahaprabhu tare jadi vikramajila.
Dainya kare se viprakohite lagila.
Dainya kare se viprakohite lagila.
Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu willingly requested food from the Brahmana, and the Brahmana, feeling a natural humility, began to speak as follows. 182. Tomari vikya divo baro bhagya shayama.
Tomari vikya divo baro bhagya shayama.
Tome ishvara nahi tomar vidhi vyavaha.
Tome ishvara nahi tomar vidhi vyavaha.
It is a great fortune for me to offer you food. You are the Supreme Lord, and being in the transcendental position, you are not restricted in any way. 183. Morka lokari bek tomara nindan. Sahitena parimuse dushte ravachan. Murka lokariveka tomaranindan. Sahitena parimuse dushte ravachan. Murka loka koribeka tomaranindan. Sahitena parimose dustera bacham. What?
They wrote Bengali wrong.
Dustera with that apostrophe is wrong, right?
No. The second line, last part is all wrong. I mean, not all, but 80%.
Wrong?
Yeah.
Can you say what?
It's okay.
No, but say what?
It says duschataish takraish vacha.
The script, he's talking about the script, now the script is wrong.
Well,
That's okay. I can read.
Sahitena parimu.
It's the same step. They put it together into 3-4 other words. It's okay. I think it's a word.
No, but yeah, dustera should be one word.
There is no dusta here.
No?
In the Bengali, no.
There's no dusta?
No. Duskita asta. Duskita asta.
Really, it's completely wrong.
No, it's okay. It's called computer autocorrect or correct or something.
No, because here is the same as there, and more or less, and the word for words. Go ahead. Okay. Anyone chant?
Murkalo kariveka tumara lindan. Sahitena parimuse dustera vacha.
I shall not be able to tolerate. Shade. Those. Dustir Bachan. Words of mischievous persons. Now, can you say what is the real word? Not dustir? Oh, it's too kind of fixed.
No, this is correct. Translation is correct.
Anyway. Foolish persons will blaspheme you, but I shall not tolerate the words of such mischievous people. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks that although the Brahmana did not belong to a superior community, he fearlessly chastised so-called caste Brahmanas because he was situated on the platform of pure devotional service. There are people who are opposed to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's accepting a Vaishnava belonging to a lower caste. Such people do not consider Mahaprasad transcendental, and therefore they are described here as morka, foolish, and dushta, mischievous. A pure devotee has the power to challenge such high caste people, and his brave statements are not to be considered proud or puffed up. On the contrary, he is to be considered straightforward. Such a person does not like to flatter high-class brahmanas who belong to a non-Vaishnava community. Om Jnanatamalandasya Gyananjanasya Vakaya Chakshunamritam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapate Kamanam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Shanukam Sagadatam Sabhadanam Tam Srivam Satvaitam Sabhadutam Paritinasaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Sadhanavam Shri Vishakam Tam Sat Janalambido Bujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanaikapitalo Kamanayata Sambalo, Kijibalo, Vividama, Monday, you got clear for Pranavatar. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare. So, this purport, this verse, this story, is about this Brahmana, this particular section. Ultimately, this Brahmin travels with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 4 people travel with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he leaves Vrindavan. So he was very fortunate. And so Bhaktisiddhanta remarks that he didn't belong to a superior community. That was all explained about these Sanodia Brahmanas, how they're the Brahmanas for these Vaishyas in upper part of India. And those are not the topmost Vaishyas. They deal with gold. It was already explained. He fearlessly chastised so-called caste Brahmins. He called them here Morkalok. Morkalok means foolish person. So this kind of encapsulates Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's mission and his different in his comments brought out throughout all of his commentaries. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta didn't write particularly any big book, but he commented on Chaitanya Charitamrita. Most of what we read is, a lot of what we read are comments by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the comments, and Prabhupada brings his own comments. And especially the Chaitanya Bhagavat, practically all the comments are by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Many times he quotes his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And sometimes, much of it is by himself. So he was very strong personality. It takes probably a long time. I would recommend anybody to read Bhakti Vikasa's book on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta to get a glimpse of how powerful a person he was. So he's taking up the line of this Sanodia Brahmana and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission itself. Jai Krishna Tattaveka Shai Guru Hai. This is a very quotable shloka from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Comes in Madhya 8 in the conversation of Mahaprabhu speaking with Ramananda Roy. It so happens that in previous times, mostly only householders took disciples. And this is in reference that anybody can become guru. Jai Krishna Tattva Vedya. That person, anyone who understands Krishna Tattva. So the Sanodia Brahmana might be considered, actually it's pointed out also by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta that in the modern age, or at least in the age of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, there's Prabhupada pointed out, there are different lineages, so-called lineages from Nityananda and Advaita Acharya. So in the time of Advaita Acharya, there was the Shrud ceremony. And that's considered a very important thing. One has to offer pinda to the relative, deceased relative, if he sees the body, especially a father. So when Advaita Acharya was performing it, he offered the first patra to Haridas Thakur, who was complete outcast. Advaita Acharya was a high-grade Brahmana, highly respected. He shocked the entire Brahminical world at the time by offering this plate to Thakur Haridas. Thakur Haridas was not even within the Varnashram, he was born a Muslim. But in the line of Advaita Acharya, then they consider that very, what's the matter? Is it on? No, it wasn't on. The whole time? I just put here. That was my fault. Okay. I don't know how it went off, because I was maybe...
They notice people are watching you. The whole world.
They saw silence. The sounds of silence. So in the modern line, people claiming to be in the line of Nityananda Vamsa or Advaita Acharya, they adhere very much to these so-called vyavahara, we mentioned this word, vyavahara, regular behavior that ordinary persons. So when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati performing his mission, he didn't care for any of these so-called ordinary brahmanas, ordinary born gurus. He described them as tax collectors. They would take money, and there was so many asampradayas, 13, 14, enunciated by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, externally, he was very powerful, following in the footsteps of Nitai and Nityananda. Nityananda had two things described, that the Pashanda Dalana, he not only exhibited and prema, and imbued prema, but he was also externally, he was defying the so-called caste system at the time. So, following in the footsteps, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is actually Manjari. So, and he gave instruction to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was fearlessly preaching. It's almost impossible to understand. Nikala Bhuvana Moha Chinna Vichinna Karti is one shloka describing that, almost comparing him to Vamanadev. With his first step, he smashed the empiricists. With his second step, he smashed the Salvationists. But with his third step, he enlivened the Vidhi Marg with Raga. He was always so careful that the Sahajiya tendency within his own disciples would be, I refer to this as anadikar charcha. People speaking above their head, speaking about very intimate subject matters. He was always wary. So he described that 90% of his mission was this pasanda dalana, to smash the so-called smartas, those who are sticking only to regular principles, who only believe that there's a contiguous disciplic succession. Sometimes he was even criticized by Bhaktivinoda Thakur's followers for establishing Varnashram, for reestablishing the sannyas ashram. So he defied everybody, practically. At the same time, he was very soft, and he could attract so many. So he was a very inconceivable personality, and it comes out in all his purports. His mood is there. So we have to always look out for that mood of Bhaktisiddhanta. He was situated, he's describing how he fearlessly chastised so-called caste brahmanas because he was situated on a platform of pure devotional service. So Prabhupada followed in this also. This is called the chopping technique. Sometimes Prabhupada described that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was such a lion, Narsingha guru, that his own disciples were put off. They would even say, oh, Guru Maharaj is too much now, he shouldn't preach like this. Prabhupada said they fell down just for thinking like that. Because from thought comes. But there were many who were very powerful preachers. Prabhupada was the most powerful. Prabhupada said that of my Guru Maharaj's disciples, I am the only one actually carrying on the family business, which is to preach powerfully throughout the world, fearlessly. So I am the only son of my Guru Maharaj. So who would say something? Others, he said, are like daughters, because they didn't preach what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati demanded, to go out and preach. Priti Vityachi Tatanagariga Gram Sarvata Pracha Hoide. Pranachi Ja Sahetu Pracha. Those who have life, they preach. So Prabhupada had that preaching life. So if one, simply ringing the bells, some of Prabhupada's godbrothers became very upset that they went to Sridhar Maharaj, Prabhupada's older godbrother, very friendly with Prabhupada. And they complained. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, he's saying that we're simply ringing bells. So Sridhar Maharaj told them that his orchestra, his band is so powerful that if you're ringing even a bell in his orchestra, you should be very happy. So it's considered that Prabhupada was able to follow strictly in the footsteps. And the Acharya, Achanoti hi Shastrartam, and the Acharya is known by the Shastra that he purveys. The Acharya, such a great Acharya like Bhaktisiddhanta, he can create Shastra. Shastra Vyavahar. By his activity, he is Shastra. So those who were criticizing, Prabhupada even described that Bhaktisiddhanta's brother, actual brother, biological brother, when Prabhupada went to visit him, very friendly conversation on the way to Mayapur. But Prabhupada's objective was, there were so many writings of Bhakti Vinod Thakur there, and that birthplace of Bhakti Vinod Thakur was there, and he asked the devotees that you speak with him very nicely, and if you feel intimidated, because after all, he is the biological brother of, Prabhupada said, my own guru. He said, never mind, you can challenge even such a great person by asking him questions. It's like he has not been able to maintain even that ashram. He has not been able to distribute the literature, the writings of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So you can ask him, is it right if someone has a wonderful place of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, if he has the writings of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is it right that he doesn't distribute it? That he doesn't allow others to maintain the place? So Prabhupada said it's not offensive to challenge even the seniors. So Prabhupada was always challenging. Wherever Prabhupada went, when he went to Tirupati, he met with the senior-most officials there. And if you hear him speaking, he's challenging throughout the whole conversation. The government men, why are you taking Balaji's money? People are putting so many lakhs, crores of rupees every day, donating to Balaji. in Tirupati. And is he Balaji? Anyway, he's calling Balaji in this conversation that, so why the government is taking? So he would challenge even in the West, Prabhupada asked was it the chief of police or the mayor of Chicago to donate the city hall. Fearless, always. He didn't mind for anybody saying anything. When he came to the Fisher Mansion, immediately said, so you can donate this. Wasn't shy about any of that. Why? I'm sorry, Swamiji, we cannot. So Prabhupada said, I did not have 3 paisa, but immediately there was $300,000 that we purchased the place. But I didn't have 3 paisa, so Prabhupada was a bhiksha. Bhikka means he's begging, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not having anything, following strictly in the footsteps of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was agitating many people in his time. Nowadays, due to the internet and due to modern times, I mean, you see that this powerful mood of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta of Prabhupada is being challenged. There's so many quasi-Vaishnava and Mayavadis are coming out. And in the day of Prabhupada, it was just very clear-cut. There was ISKCON, and then there was just Prabhupada's godbrothers in India. And in the West, there was nothing. There was only little something here and there. But so nowadays, anything can creep in. We always have to be aware. This anadikar, also speaking very lofty subjects. Bhaktisiddhanta he didn't encourage it, but he put forward. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati came to Vrindavan in a car. No sadhu will come in an automobile in those days. He dressed very fancy sometimes. Yeah, he sent his men also. So he was criticized. He came to Radhakund. He spoke on Tattva Siddhanta. He didn't speak on Leela, which is expected. So all the Babajis and so-called Babajis, they criticized him. He didn't care for it. Rather, he said, they are living in Narakund. They're not living in Radhakund. Narak means hell. So, there was always some thing. He was constantly, within he was very soft. Vajrarapikato Rani. Prabhupada's also Vajrarapikato Rani. On the outside like a thunderbolt. Prabhupada actually even apologized, offered apology to his godbrothers in the last few days, saying that I was preaching with chopper, so I have to be excused because my disciples are very immature, so you please excuse my preaching. So Prabhupada is always very humble, but also fearless, as mentioned here. So it's brought out, such people do not consider Mahaprasad transcendental. That's that famous, well-known verse that we sometimes chant. Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnava Swalpa Punyavatam Rajan Vishvasam. Vishvasa means faith. So one who doesn't have faith in the Mahaprasad, just like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in the beginning, I'm sure he took Mahaprasadam. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, he gave up all his vyavahar, so-called rules and regulations. Just waking up, what to speak of bathing, he just got out of bed. Mahaprabhu came to his place and gave him Mahaprasad in his hand. He took it. So by that association with these great, great personalities, one gives up so-called ordinary rules and regulations. A pure devotee has the power to challenge such high caste people. Prabhupada used to try to train the disciples, but at the same time he wanted to temper them. That, like the instance where Prabhupada went to the Indian embassy in New York, and he was practically yelling in Hindi at the officials there, and they were listening. Prabhupada, not yelling, but very powerfully speaking. And Shruti Kirti reported, and Kirtiraj went also. Kirtiraj maybe can give us more details sometime. And when they came out from that place, they said, well, Prabhupada, you were speaking so powerfully, He said, yes. If they don't take it, badly because I'm an old man. Prabhupada was speaking very humbly, but Prabhupada had the adhikar to speak like that. But he said, you cannot do. So sometimes the devotees can get carried away. We don't know. Bhakti-Santa Saraswati has the adhikar. He fully learned it. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Nimai Pandit, he conquered. Nobody would even come near, try to discuss. The Keshav Kashmiri was smashed. Anyone who came no one came by to. He gave it up. He gave up this so-called pastime. But everyone knew. Even in Benares, they heard, oh, this Nimai Pandit, we heard something about him. He's supposed to be some learned, there, something. He was famous. And still, but he came very humbly. But he still defeated all these. So there's so many shlokas about this. Narad Muni gives, for instance, in 7th canto, Yat anyatrapi drisheta tattaina vinirjishet. Yasya ya lakshanam proktam tamsa varnyabhiyanjika. Yat anyatrapi, if one sees anya, somewhere else, the qualities of a Brahman, then they should be indicated and accepted. Not that one is born a Brahman. Prabhupada described seeing Brahmanas pulling tela. Tela is like big cart full of anything, some huge carts, say in Calcutta, all over India. And sometimes the animals are not pulling it, but the human beings. And he saw sometimes that someone with a Brahman thread is pulling that cart. And others are saying, oh, Panditji, Panditji. Prabhupada said, what Panditji? He's not acting like a Brahmin, he's acting just like a Sudra pulling a cart for money. That means he's not a Brahmin. So then, if one is a Supreme Court, son of the Supreme Court, doesn't mean he doesn't inherit, but he has to have the qualification. Described in Gita by Krishna gives the basics about that. Janma karma, he has to have the karma, they do the activity, guna karma, and the qualification. Not that anybody born Brahmin, then we give some superficial respect, there's no problem. Prabhupada had devotees even, so it's very subtle art how to do this. Many times Prabhupada said Vrindavan was overrun with Mayavadis, demons. But then when Mayavadi sannyasis passed by, Prabhupada asked the devotees to bow to them. So one maintains this etiquette, because the etiquette is very important. When Prabhupada was lecturing in Vrindavan on the Radha Damodar courtyard in 72, that time we didn't have whole Bhagavatam or anything, but there was nectar devotion. So within nectar devotion, Rupa Goswami's quoting Kapila Devi, the verses, is a Devahuti. Sapacho tagariyanya jiva grivartate namatu yamante pepustapaste. That even a dog eater who chants, becomes a devotee, if yajivagre, on the tip of his tongue, he's chanting the holy name, it's understood that he's surpassed all the rules and regulations in previous lives. And he's become an Aryan, an advanced person. Therefore, so Prabhupada commented that it shows how the world acharya is, how it's important that he was world acharya. He had gone so many places. So he said that before going to the Philippines, he had not known what is a dog eater, because even in India, he hadn't seen. He said, I never saw a dog eater. But in the Philippines, in Manila, I saw dog eaters. I saw in the marketplace, they're selling dogs. He said, but our disciples, and he mentioned Siddhasarupa and Sudama Vipra, they have induced these dog eaters to chant Hare Krishna better than the so-called Vaishnavas of Vrindavan. So it was a very strong statement to make, the so-called Vaishnavas of Vrindavan. Not every Vaishnava, but Prabhupada said it, speaking very, very strongly like that. So-called Vaishnavas in Vrindavan. This is his comment. So, because the devotees were also going there, fearless. But one shouldn't also become puffed up, or fall and become a sahaja. Always aware, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, always very aware of any subtle deviation. Prabhupada came to LA in 76, where devotees I remember they had organized to simply study the pastimes of the gopis, and became nicknamed the Gopi Bala Club. So Prabhupada became alarmed, and there was one devotee who was a Sanskrit pundit there, and he wasn't even in the Gopi Bala Club. And he was the first one he brought, because he heard that he was living in Radhakund. So he brought him in even before the other devotees. And he just chastised him like that. And he was always, after that he would always tell me, I don't know why Prabhupada chastised me. I didn't do. Later on he left. But he didn't like that. So one who's happy to get the stick of chastisement, there's verses that Chaitanya Danda, when he's happy to get the stick of, we can't get directly the stick of Lord Chaitanya, but we can get the stick of Prabhupada on our head. Bhaktisiddhanta, if we read. Bhaktisiddhanta said, you beat your mind 100 times with a stick. What is that stick? That stick is we study, we stick to the pastimes, the tattva put forward by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, by Prabhupada. They're there. You can always hear about it. And then remind ourselves always that we're these very insignificant specks, and what their mission is very powerful. And we're just little tiny dust particles, hardly do anything. It's very difficult to get puffed up. There were people who I heard myself them say, I did 10 times more than Prabhupada. And now they don't do any service, hardly any service. Yes. We're not speaking names, but 10 times more than Prabhupada. So, no, Prabhupada's doing so much. A pure devotee has the power to challenge it. So Prabhupada said, look, many times on a morning walk, especially in a conversation, he said, I am not scientist. Prabhupada knew science, he knew he was a chemist, he knew something, definitely. But, but he would, on the basis of Shastra, had strict adherence to Shastras, full faith in the Shastra. Prabhupada said, this is the qualification of pure devotee, has full faith in the Shastra, and fully renounced, fully learned in the Shastra. So based on that, he could challenge anybody in any field, any religionist, any scientist, any philosopher. We were hearing about one modern French guru, I think he was French, or Guru Garanga was describing Sergei, somebody. He had come a long way, a few hundred miles, to meet with Prabhupada in Geneva. And when he came, it was kind of a big thing because he had a following and like that. But, and he came, he sat in front of Prabhupada. Prabhupada spoke, and Prabhupada asked him, you have some question? He had no question. Prabhupada answered all of his questions. So then Prabhupada just did a half-hour bhajan. And afterwards the man just was very pleased, very happy. Yes, I'm very happy I got to meet you like that. Sometimes Prabhupada didn't have to do much, but many times he would speak, and we can hear the conversations that he had. Sometimes Prabhupada would say, like in Australia, there was one social leader, like a politician, so that man, he didn't accept 4 regular principles. He said, no, Swamiji, I cannot. So Prabhupada said, give him prasadam. Give him prasadam. If someone couldn't accept him, at least they'll get prasadam. Mahaprasade Govinde Brahmi. So they get the Mahaprasada. Such a person does not like to flatter high-class brahmanas who belong to the non-Vaishnav community. That's another thing. Kasma bhajanti kavayo danador madandham. Sukadeva Goswami describes this. Why should anyone flatter these persons? puffed up, who are blinded. Kasmad bhajanti kavayo dana durma dandhan. Dana durma dandhan means blinded by wealth. Anda, dana means wealth. So these non-Vaishnavas, a Vaishnavo Guru Nasasyat. There's one verse that describes Satkamanipano Vipra Mantra Tantra Visharada. One is expert in all mantras, all tantras, but if he's not a Vaishnava, he actually cannot become Guru. Prahlad Maharaj says in his prayers, Vipradishad Duniyutada Ravindanava Padaravinda Vimukat Sapacham Varishtam. Viprad, one is so-called Vipra, and decorated with all the qualifications of a Brahmin. But if he's not a devotee, Prahlad Maharaj said, Nataburi ma. Even one is a swapacha, a dog eater. If he becomes a devotee, he can deliver his whole family and anybody else. But such a puffed up Brahmana, who is not a Vaishnava, doesn't surrender to Krishna, Padaravinda Tashara, he cannot deliver him, even his own self. And sometimes we probably glorify Brahmanas just out of hand as examples. He'd see Brahmanas cooking, he would say, a real Brahmin cooks for himself. Even his wife doesn't cook. And he would see Brahmanas in the street sometimes cooking their own. We just heard a whole description of Prabhupada cooking, very nice. So he would glorify sometimes the Brahmins like that. Not that, he said, ISKCON Brahmin, Prabhupada said, he became very alarmed in the last couple of years. Prabhupada described that ISKCON Brahmanas, we have to be boiling the milk. Not that everyone is a Brahmin and automatically becomes a Brahmin, because he saw they're falling away. Therefore he wanted that Varnashram college, that those in the Gurukula or those who join, they are not fit for study, then they can just work. In Mayapur, Prabhupada opened up the Mayapur, I remember in 74, it was very shocking. We're on a morning walk, and Prabhupada said, so we can build a wall, and there will be rooms on the wall. And everyone was like, there was no wall, there was no rooms, nothing to see. I was on the walk, and Jai Pataka and Baba, everybody's looking, wondering, what, a wall with rooms? And then if people can come from the villages, and they can do their cottage industry, they can do weaving here, or whatever there. And it happened. We brought them there. And when it was pointed out that those people were, when they came there, they weren't following so strictly, like their sadhana was difficult to get them to chant japa and like that. So Prabhupada said their weaving is their sadhana. So Prabhupada is all-encompassing, trying to bring everyone, casting a wide net, at the same time trying to keep everything strict for those who are following Brahminical principles. So difficult for us to follow, but Prabhupada set very high standard, very liberal standard at the same time. Prabhupada said, I am very liberal compared to my Guru Maharaj. He said, if I told you all the rules, or he probably said one time, if I followed all the rules, I could not live for a moment. Could not live for a moment. This is a very Prabhupada statement, you know. Something you have to think about for the rest of your life. Could not live for a moment. Just like sometimes they would try to have Prabhupada reveal his inner spiritual identity. He said, if I told you, you would faint. So, if I told you, you would faint. So think about that. So we should be very satisfied and careful at the same time. We can challenge anybody's philosophy. We are strict. Everything here is the pastime showing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'm sure there's so-called Brahmanas who don't accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They might say, oh yes. Others, they might say he is. So, Prabodhananda Saraswati, Kavi Karnpur, all the great acharyas who are the greatest poets, Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, they don't care for those people. We strictly stay away from that. A pure devotee has the power to challenge such high-class people. So they may be high-class. Still, we give them respect. What does Prabodhananda Saraswati give us as a method for preaching? Hey, sadhava sakalame bahaya dora chaitanya chandra charane kurutanu ragam. He says that I am coming to you, kaku, what is it? Crying hundreds of times, satam, 100 times crying in front of you with a straw in my teeth. And Nityananda was such a great personality of God, but he used to have a straw in his teeth sometimes, go door to door and fall down with Haridas Thakur. Someone will open the door and they'll just fall, begging them, please chant Hare Krishna. So Prabodhananda Saraswati describes it like that. Hey, Sadhava. So when you flatter someone, the method of preaching, yes, Prabhupada was very good. With Beatles, he also said, you're the best of all the persons in the world. Of course, he didn't overdo it. Just enough. Everyone looks up to you, so you should take up this chanting Hare Krishna. So Prabodhananda Saraswati says this flattery sometimes works very well. And of course, here, if you call someone a sadhu, you can say something, but they don't know whether it's sadhu. But Prabodhananda Saraswati call someone a sadhu. Sadhu means, I'm a sadhu. They'll think, yes. Yeah, he knows I'm a sadhu. Man may not be a sadhu, who knows? Most people are not sadhu. Hey, sadhu, sakalame. One thing you do, you're a sadhu, you are very great, but just, I ask you one thing. Give up all your nonsense, all your attachments, and sakalame vahaya door. At a long distance, Chaitanya Chandra Charane, just become attached to the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's all. But this is the softening process and the heavy thunderbolt process, all entwined. Just like the nails of Narasimhadev, they're sharp, but he's very soft like a lotus. His hand is soft like a lotus, but it's sharp now, so one has to be able to. So Prabhupada showed that example. And following in the footsteps of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Okay, so if there's any comment.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, thank you. First, it's obvious and also amazing how Prabhupada, he's so connected with Krishna in the heart. He could respond to every situation, every kind of person, whatever their religion or background. Sometimes he'd be soft, sometimes heavy, sometimes he'd inquire about their religion a little bit, or what did they believe, or what was God. And other times he would cut to the chase quicker. If I try to do something like that, because I'm subject to the modes of nature, it might not always be helpful.
Yes, time and place. Prabhupada is expert at time and place.
Puskar, nice lecture, Prabhu. Just remember this one statement Srila Prabhupada related to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta preaching. He says, his Guru Maharaj, he said, my Guru Maharaj never compromised when he was preaching. He said, I'm not compromising when I'm preaching. So similarly, I don't want my disciples to compromise when they preach. So he also says that his Guru Maharaj initiated, my Guru Maharaj initiated thousands of disciples. In practically speaking, I'm the only one traveling all over the world preaching. It's in, like that.
Right. Over there.
Prabhupada does not say
so much about himself. He said we have secrets. He doesn't say I. Prabhupada say always we.
Sometimes you might say I, but we. That's the Queen's English, we.
It's better to have the last one.
So it really struck me when you were talking about how when the villagers came in and they were doing the weaving, that they weren't, taking up the process as Prabhupada gave it to us. And Prabhupada said, well, that's their sadhana, or that's their japa that they're doing the weaving. So on one hand, we want to preach, we want to be strict, but it seems like on the other hand, there's that whole mood of accepting what people can do. I remember, and I don't know this firsthand, I remember hearing a story of a couple, they were devotees, and at some point they left and became Christians because they said, we're bad devotees, but at least we can be good Christians. So it seems like this idea of being, broad-minded and encourage, like you can preach strongly, but then also you have to be accepting of where people are and what they can do, right?
Yeah. He also, when I was in like Henry Street in 71, the press devotees who actually, two specifically, or three, who were doing physical press work, started the ISKCON Press in Boston, or New York, went to Boston, came back to New York. They were not having any sadhana. So when it was pointed out to Prabhupada, he said, then we don't need we don't need them to print books. What are we printing books for? Our own men cannot follow. He considered those his direct disciples that weren't just outside Bengali. So we have to have intelligence to sort out what's what. So he was very disgusted. Then he said, what are we printing the book for if our men cannot follow? So there's that line of heavy, strict adherence, and then there's, you can't have that. So then in the lecture in the morning, he said, those in this temple that cannot rise before 4 a.m, they cannot stay in this temple. He said it in the Bhagavatam class. And he demanded everyone had to go out, all the press members would have to go out. This was going on, it might have started in Boston, but at least 1 hour, hour and a half before we even started press work, before we had breakfast, we were out, hit the streets at 6 o'clock, chanted some japa, and then 7:30, 8 o'clock, we're returned. And then, but we would go to either downtown Brooklyn or to downtown Manhattan, even bring deities with us. When it was pointed out to Prabhupada that there were people in the street, Wall Street, we'd go on Wall Street chanting with the deities, and somebody's doing like some puja. And they said, Prabhupada, these people are offensive. They go by, they don't respect the deities. Prabhupada said, yes, their offense is temporary, but the benefit is eternal. But Prabhupada could say that. How would we ever realize it? But so he said, if you don't go out, you don't chant, then you just simply sleep, you're in Maya. Very powerful. But when you have the situation of Bengalis, I was on one morning walk where there was only very few Bengali devotees. There was one Adi Guru, and he used to for years. Pran will be the only one who knows. He used to take care of Prabhupada Samadhi, and he left his body maybe 10 years ago. But his daughter was becoming a little like 12 or something. So he asked, so on the morning walk, it was said that Adi Guru, his daughter has to get married now, she's 12 or whatever. Which in that circumstance, they get married. And even then. So Prabhupada said, yes, she can marry. And there were not too many eligible persons on our property or devotees. He said, she can marry within or without, in the village, someone. We will give so many rupees for dowry. It was very small, like 500 rupees, even 200, I forget, it's nothing really. It wasn't more than 500 rupees, which, for a marriage, I guess you could have some small marriage. Anyway, he said, she can marry within or without. Oh, people were surprised, within or without. But the important thing was she had to get married. So Prabhupada could promulgate these details. He lived in Bengali, he's Bengali, he knows the mentality.
You can just read the bottom.
I can what?
Read the bottom.
Oh, okay. Please address an ordinary devotee should draw the line. Thank you. Okay. So ordinary devotee, like I gave one example, how when Kirtiraj and Srutakirti witnessed Prabhupada speaking super strongly to the Indian embassy people, and when they came out, they remarked to Prabhupada, "Oh, you spoke so strongly." It's like, wow, scary almost. Prabhupada said, "Yes, I can do it. I can get away with it. You can't." He's a 75-year-old, 76-year-old Bengali guru, highly learned. They'll listen. He said, they don't take it seriously. This is Prabhupada's way of saying they do take it seriously. You have to read between the lines. Anyway, so, but if we did it, we look like upstart. So, now many people are old, they're 70s plus, 80. It's different. You can speak a little more strongly if we have the opportunity. Then sometimes I remember I met one policeman in Gainesville, and he told me his father or something. I realized I was older than the cop's father, and that was like 20-something years ago. The cop, I'm older than his father, and that was 25 years ago.
Yeah, Prabhuji. I have a question. You said Prabhupada said he used to chastise Mayavatis at the same time when they passes,
At the same time?
when they passes by, they ask to go down.
He didn't directly chastise, but he said, I was in Prabhupada's room one time in 74, and he was chanting the Goswami Ashtakam, describing what Krishna Kirtanagana and what the 6 Goswamis would, how they were chanting and delivering the world. And so Prabhupada, he said that all the leaders in Vrindavan, they must become on the level of 6 Goswamis. He said, there are no Goswamis at least visible in Vrindavan, but you should become. So I mean, it's like, these are 30, 25-year-old Western guys, and he's telling them to become on the level of 6 Goswamis, but there's no real Goswamis in Vrindavan now. I mean, you kind of get scared, like, what are we going to do here, Prabhupada had it. So, but he didn't directly, sometimes if it happened, he would smash. But in Vrindavan, he would say, it's overrun with Mayavadis. There's so many, don't think that everyone's a pure devotee. But on the other hand, when we come across them, once or twice he had them pay respect. I forget if they had to bow down. Prabhupada was very, very tricky and super intelligent. Just like you can hear a story that Gridananda tells a story. He was on one morning walk and some devotee was quoting, might have been an Indian, quoting so many shlokas. And Prabhupada said, yes. Very, very nice. He was pleased. The next day, Gridananda Maharaj decided, he started to quote some shloka. One shloka about something. Probably instantly he said, there are so many shlokas. He just dismissed it like... So, Prabhupada is very playing both sides, if you got to, any trace of some sort of, he would immediately cut it. Sadhu means to cut. Just like Prabhupada glorified Vidura, that he came and he cut all the attachments of Dhritarashtra. Not that he pandered. We don't pander to the materialists. Yes, that's very nice. Sometimes Prabhupada did that also. There was some bhakta, very wealthy bhakta, actually was a drug dealer. He came to Vrindavan with his wife who was dressed very beautifully. And Prabhupada said to them, yes, you are the ideal household couple. She is attracted to you and you are attracted. They are attracted to each other. And they took it that, yes, Prabhupada is approving. But he would, anyone who knew Prabhupada was, but still he was saying like that, but if you had any inkling of Prabhupada's mission, you would know that it was simply like an inside joke or something. That, okay, they're very nice, that's true. But if that's the only level you can take, then that's better than nothing.
So my question is, how can you chastise somebody and bow at the same time.
Well, at the same time you don't. The Prabhupada came, you can read in Lilamrita or hear the pastime that they had the melas where they were speaking Bhagavad Gita and there were many impersonalists speaking. And once or twice, Prabhupada became very disturbed and smashed the whole meeting. Immediately, he told the devotees, stand up, chant, while there's some Mayavadi was trying to describe Bhagavad Gita. And people are learned. I went one time to Janpat in 75. Tejas had arranged that we went to the railway minister, education, health minister, one lady, I forget, she was one of the chief ministers from Gandhi, Indira Gandhi. And Tejas was very expert. So he arranged that we went there. I'm pretty sure I know Chutananda, Dinanath, they were doing kirtan at these places. So there's one lady, she was one of the chief ministers, and she was chanting Gita. She chanted a whole chapter from memory, and she was not stupid, you know. And then afterwards Prabhupada said, but you know the meaning? And he told her, you know, this is not heavy, but, you know, okay, you're chanting that, very nice, you know, but do you know what the meaning is of Bhagavad Gita? If you hear the morning walks in Bombay especially, sometimes there's Vinod Bhave, another one, Tilak, very famous, you know, they were followers of Gandhi and very strong Hindu leaders. And Prabhupada he said to some, like Dr. Patel, he said, I tell you frankly, Tilak does not know what is Bhagavad Gita. Some people were putting forward that he had written some book of Prabhupada, said he does not know Bhagavad Gita. These are big heroes amongst the Hindus, you know. And Prabhupada would say flat out, said, he does not know Bhagavad Gita, like that. Even Gandhi, he said, he is simply posing with Bhagavad Gita. He did not know what is Bhagavad Gita. On one other hand, Bhagavad Maharaj told the story how they were walking and there was a statue of Gandhi. When they walked down Juhu Beach, there was one statue, and many statues, but there was one. And Prabhupada looked at it and said, I loved Gandhi. So he's a person, you know, he has emotions and sentiments, memories, but he rejected it. But still he said, he acknowledged. Sometimes he would say, but Gandhi, by his non-violence, he forced the British out. Sometimes he said that Gandhi didn't accomplish, it was Bosch, that non-violence doesn't accomplish. If he wants to make a point of something. It's true though, there was non-violence movement help. But it depends what you focus on, what point you're making. So there may be Mayavadi, sometimes you talk to them pleasantly, but as soon as they bring up their point, then proper. But you have to be able to do it. Therefore, Prabhupada said the devotee should know the Shastra like a lawyer. These things are always coming up. Nowadays, we don't get a chance to interact and preach, but devotees in India, they become expert at these things, especially because they have to confront many things all the time. And even here, there's many things, but nowadays we just get to talk, you know, everyone wears a mask. So it's a more challenging time, but there's online, so many kirtans. But like during Bhaktisiddhanta's time, it was mentioned in the biography that the kirtan was like a show. Everything was a performance. And so Bhaktisiddhanta was not attracted to so many kirtans, you know, at all. He thought that what is this, just a show? But he was against the show, you know. Therefore, he didn't even allow harmonium, but Prabhupada played harmonium. I mean, it was a different time and place. But, so sometimes Prabhupada would say, yes, you can do this and that, but other times he would say, no, simply strict to, as soon as it would go too far, like there was the road show and they were doing so many things, instruments and Prabhupada stopped. So the leader there, Vishnu Jan, he wanted to create yoga village. Yoga village. Prabhupada said, what is this yoga village? Nonsense. He's gone too far now. Stop it. Stop the road show. Although we were doing a lot of preaching. He said, stick to coal cartel, mridanga cartel. Things get too out, you know, you can do so many things, but you have to always rein it back in. You know. So Prabhupada was watching everything, you know, so many people with letters and traveling around just to keep, why did he travel around? Just to make sure things were going on, strictly. And if there was some deviation, Prabhupada would immediately know what's going on. If you, Prabhupada came, famous story, went to Mexico, and whole temple was clean, but just behind the door of the kitchen, the trash was quickly put because they didn't know Prabhupada was going to come. Immediately, right? Remind you? Immediately pulls the door back, sees the trash. That's Prabhupada. He's on a morning walk in Mayapur, and he sees the plants are not watered properly. They're drying up. He said, none of you notice these plants? Whose job is this? He wants to know whose job. So Jayapataka Maharaj said, oh, this is Tapamoya's job. Prabhupada said, then it's not his job, he didn't do it. Well, he had other things to do. And Prabhupada said, he is a boy, why don't you get a grown man to do this job? Grown, Tapamoya. Prabhupada's on the morning walk, the toilets were overflooded, stinking. Nobody's doing anything. Prabhupada said, you don't smell this? Am I the only one who smells this? He brought it up in the class. It was Prahlad's prayers talking about the Rajatamagun, that the, Madhukaitava came and they stole the Vedas, and Vedadruhavati below Madhukaitava, and they're full of the mode of passion and ignorance. So Prabhupada said, so that's why I'm always seeing what is mode of passion and ignorance are creeping in, like that toilet smell. Therefore I could understand that you have no reaction to the toilet smell. Therefore you're still in the mode of ignorance. Stole the whole assembly, the whole Mayapur festival in 76. You're still in the mode of ignorance. Because nobody did anything about that smell. So Prabhupada is very practical. So if you can't fix the toilet, you need to, it's hard to do much. That's a basic thing. I was always very wary of all these. He had all practical knowledge. It's described in the first canto how Sutta Goswami paravara vido vidu, that he knows para avara, not only the transcendental tattva, but the mundane knowledge. Not that, yes, he's guru, he doesn't smell the toilet. No. So Prabhupada was a practical person. How we create whole Hare Krishna movement like that? He knew how to cook every single thing we described, each spice, when to put it in, how long, take the massage, take the bath, and finish. Boom. Inconceivable. Chapati, everyone blowing up. A little steam. Just like effortless, so you don't find that. All right, so any other?
Some devotee appreciate you with us.
Okay. Shranga's got his hand.
Just really quick, I was thinking of the age-old challenge to distinguish following and imitating.
Anushara and Anukara.
Then it occurred to me, we have to know the difference between the principle and the detail, and that would help us navigate that.
Yeah, right? Imitating. Okay. Lord Prabhupada.
Thank you.